Captain Jacob Hale stood before the main viewport on the bridge of the starship Guardian, his gaze fixed on the swirling colors of the nebula ahead. The serene beauty of space always seemed at odds with the turmoil that so often awaited his crew. "Captain, we've received an urgent transmission from Earth's Space Command," announced Lieutenant Nora Sato, his communications officer, her voice cutting through the hum of the ship's operations. Jacob turned from the viewport, nodding to Nora. "On screen, Lieutenant." The image flickered to life, revealing Admiral Kessler's stern face. "Captain Hale, we're activating the Guardian and the rest of Earth's fleet for immediate deployment. You are to rendezvous with the Galactic Council. They've called an emergency session." Jacob's brow furrowed. "The Council? That's highly unusual, Admiral. What's the situation?" "It's classified at the highest level. I'll brief you and your senior officers in 30 minutes. Be ready to jump to these coordinates," Kessler said, transmitting data that scrolled across the screen. "Understood, Admiral. We'll be prepared," Jacob replied, his mind racing with the possibilities of what could necessitate such a sudden call to action. As the screen went dark, Jacob turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Let's get moving. Nora, inform all senior officers to meet in the briefing room. Commander Lin, prepare the engine for a long-distance jump." Commander Raymond Lin, the ship's second-in-command, nodded sharply. "Right away, Captain. I'll coordinate with engineering to make sure we're jump-ready." Jacob headed towards the briefing room, his steps quick and purposeful. Nora and Raymond followed closely behind, the weight of the impending mission settling over them. In the briefing room, Jacob was joined by Dr. Emily Russo, the ship's chief scientist, and Major Tom Erickson, head of security. The atmosphere was tense as the team assembled around the holographic table. Admiral Kessler appeared on the holograph. "This isn't just a diplomatic mission," he began, his eyes sweeping across the faces of the Guardian's senior crew. "The Galactic Council has summoned us because an ancient artifact was activated in the outer sectors, and it's causing massive disruptions. This artifact is not just alien, it appears to be of precursor origin." Dr. Russo leaned forward, interest piqued. "Precursor artifacts are rare and extremely powerful. What kind of disruptions are we talking about?" "We're unsure, but initial reports suggest gravitational anomalies and temporal distortions," Kessler explained. "Your mission is to escort our ambassadors to the Council and provide any scientific support necessary to assess the artifact's threat or utility." Major Erickson frowned. "Sir, if this artifact is as dangerous as you suggest, we should also prepare for possible conflict. There's no telling how other civilizations will react to such power being unleashed." "Agreed, Major. Prepare your teams accordingly. Captain Hale, your ship and crew were chosen because of your exemplary service and versatile capabilities. Handle this with your usual discretion and expertise," Kessler concluded, his image fading out. Jacob looked around at his team, seeing determination etched on each face. "We have our orders. Let's gear up and move out. Commander Lin, set a course for the Council headquarters. Dr. Russo, start pulling all data on known precursor artifacts. Major Erickson, I want security protocols at their highest." As the team dispersed to carry out their tasks, Jacob remained for a moment, contemplating the journey ahead. The Guardian was not just a ship. It was home to a crew about to face possibly their greatest challenge yet. With a final glance at the star map displaying their destination, he turned and left the room, ready to lead his crew into the unknown. As the Guardian cruised through hyperspace towards the Galactic Council, Captain Jacob Hale reviewed the latest data on the artifact with Dr. Emily Russo in the ship's laboratory. The walls of the lab were lined with digital displays, all flickering with ancient symbols and astronomical data. "Have we made any progress on deciphering the artifact's function, Emily?" Jacob asked, his eyes scanning the complex diagrams on the screens. Dr. Russo shook her head, frustration evident. "It's elusive, Captain. The symbols are similar to those found in the Cygnus archive, but with significant variations. It suggests a far older origin, possibly even precursor." Jacob leaned closer to a display, tracing the intricate patterns with his finger. "Could this really be from the precursors? If so, we're dealing with technologies beyond our current understanding." At that moment, Commander Lin and Lieutenant Sato entered the lab. Nora held a tablet, her expression serious. "Captain, we've intercepted a transmission. It's from a rogue faction within the Council. They're mobilizing to seize the artifact." Raymond furrowed his brow. "This complicates our mission. If they believe they can harness the artifact's power, they might be preparing for conflict." Jacob turned to face his officers. "We need to be ready for anything. Nora, Enhance our communication security and keep monitoring their transmissions. Raymond, coordinate with Major Erickson. I want a contingency plan in place. Yes, Captain, they responded in unison. Turning back to Emily, Jacob's voice lowered. Keep working on the artifact's data, Emily. Understanding it might be our best chance at preventing a disaster. I'll do my best, Jacob, Emily replied, her gaze returning to her screens with renewed focus. Jacob left the lab, heading towards the bridge. As he walked, he activated his communicator. Erickson, meet me on the bridge. We need to discuss our defense strategy. Minutes later, Jacob and Tom Erickson stood over the tactical display on the bridge. The map showed their route and the positions of various council member fleets. Major, I want to avoid a confrontation, but we must be prepared to defend ourselves and the artifact if necessary, Jacob said, his voice steady. Tom nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. I've already started drills with the security teams. We'll be ready to repel boarders or engage in offensive operations if it comes to that. Jacob was reassured by Tom's confidence. Good. I'm also concerned about potential saboteurs aboard. Increase internal security. I don't want any surprises. Understood, Captain. I'll double the patrols and screen all personnel again, Tom assured, turning to leave the bridge. As the Guardian continued its journey, the tension among the crew grew palpable. Each member knew the gravity of their mission and the potential for conflict that lay ahead. Yet under Captain Hale's leadership, they remained focused and ready for whatever challenges they might face in the depths of space. The deep space outside the Guardian was a canvas of darkness punctuated by the brilliant specks of distant stars. Inside the navigation room, Captain Jacob Hale and Commander Raymond Lynn reviewed the final checks for their critical maneuver. Everything is set for the wormhole jump, Captain, Raymond reported, his eyes locked on the navigation console. Engines are at full capacity, and all systems report green. Jacob nodded, feeling the weight of anticipation. Initiate the jump sequence, Raymond. Let's make sure we come out on the other side in one piece. The crew braced themselves as the ship vibrated gently, signaling the activation of the wormhole drive. A luminous portal opened ahead of the Guardian, swirling with colors that defied description. With a firm command, Jacob ordered, "Take us in." The Guardian lurched forward, entering the wormhole. Inside, reality seemed to warp and twist. Lights streaked past the viewport in surreal patterns, and the crew felt the peculiar sensation of time dilating. In the midst of the transit, Dr. Emily Russo monitored the environmental readings, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her console. Captain, we're experiencing some unexpected anomalies. Temporal fluctuations are off the charts. It's like time is bending around us. Jacob kept his eyes fixed on the forward screens. Stay focused, everyone. Keep monitoring all systems. We need to navigate through this without losing our bearings. Lieutenant Nora Sato suddenly tensed, her voice urgent. Captain, I'm picking up distress signals. They're fragmented, but they're definitely there. Other ships have tried this route and not fared well. Jacob processed the information, aware of the risks. Raymond, adjust our trajectory to avoid the denser anomalies. Use the distress signals as markers. Adjusting now, Raymond confirmed, his hands moving swiftly over the controls. The Guardian shook violently as it dodged pockets of unstable spacetime. Major Tom Erickson came over the comms from the security station. Security teams report all clear, but everyone's feeling the strain, Captain. We need to get out of this soon. Just hold on a bit longer, Jacob replied, his voice a calm anchor amidst the chaos. After what felt like an eternity, a clear expanse of space appeared ahead, the exit from the wormhole. With skilled precision, Raymond guided the Guardian out of the tumultuous tunnel and into normal space. The ship emerged near the Galactic Council's headquarters, a massive space station orbiting a serene blue planet. As the crew sighed in relief, Jacob surveyed the star system. Status report, everyone. Nora checked her instruments, then looked up with a small smile. We made it, Captain. All systems are stabilizing and we're right where we need to be. Raymond added, Engine performance nominal. We're ready to proceed on your command. Dr. Russo chimed in last. Environmental and temporal readings are returning to normal. It was rough, but it looks like we've passed the test. Jacob allowed himself a moment of relief before the reality of their situation settled back in. Good work, team. Prepare for our approach to the council station. We need to be diplomatic but ready for anything. Let's find out what awaits us at this meeting of the galaxy's powers. As the Guardian approached the imposing structure of the council's headquarters, The crew prepared for the challenges of diplomacy and the looming threat of confrontation, knowing that the universe's eyes were now fixed upon them. As the Guardian docked at the sprawling space station of the Galactic Council, Captain Jacob Hale prepared for the complexities of interstellar diplomacy. The council chambers, a vast arena adorned with symbols representing various civilizations, buzzed with activity and whispered conversations. Jacob, along with Dr. Emily Russo and Lieutenant Nora Sato, made their way to the council's grand chamber. The air was thick with tension, the presence of so many different species, each with their own agendas and fears, palpable. Remember, we're here to negotiate and secure peace, not to start a war, Jacob whispered to his team as they approached their designated area. Nora nodded, adjusting the translator device at her collar. I've set our communicators to diplomatic protocol. We should be able to understand and be understood without issues. At the center of the chamber, a tall figure from the Lorian delegation, an influential member of the council, waved them over. Captain Hale, we were beginning to think you wouldn't make it. Jacob extended his hand, which the Lorian clasped in a firm grip. We ran into some complications through the wormhole, but nothing we couldn't handle. We're here to discuss the artifact and its implications. The Lorian's eyes narrowed slightly. Yes, the artifact. There is much fear about its potential. Some members believe it should be destroyed, others think it should be studied, and a few, well, they see it as a weapon. Dr. Russo stepped forward. Our intent is to ensure it's used for the benefit of all, not as a tool for domination. We believe it holds the key to understanding technologies that could revolutionize space travel and energy production. Their conversation was interrupted as a representative from the Zetharian bloc approached, their appearance strikingly reptilian. And what guarantees can you provide, human, that your own government will not exploit this technology for military purposes? The Zetharian hissed. Jacob met the Zetharian's gaze without flinching. Our mission is one of peace. The Guardian is a vessel of exploration and defense, not conquest. We will share all data and research with the Council. The debates continued, with each faction expressing their concerns and desires. Some were suspicious, others curious, and a few openly hostile. The chamber was a swirl of colors and voices, as translators worked overtime to keep up with the rapid exchange of words. Meanwhile, Nora discreetly scanned the room, her device picking up snippets of less formal conversations. She leaned closer to Jacob. Captain, there are whispers of a plot to seize the artifact during the summit. Some are not willing to wait for a council decision. Jacob's expression hardened. Keep an ear out, Nora. Let's not let our guard down. As the session broke for recess, Jacob and his team regrouped. We're walking on a razor's edge here, he murmured to Emily and Nora. I want us to prepare for any eventuality. Emily, continue liaising with the scientific coalition here. We need allies. Nora, enhance our security protocols. I have a feeling things might escalate sooner than we think. With a nod, they each went about their tasks, weaving through the crowd of delegates, their minds alert to every detail. The Guardian's crew had expected challenges, but the depth of intrigue and danger within the Council was greater than they had anticipated. They needed to stay one step ahead if they were to navigate this labyrinth of diplomacy and deceit successfully. Back aboard the Guardian, Captain Jacob Hale reviewed the latest security updates with Major Tom Erickson as the ship hovered in stationary orbit around the Galactic Council's headquarters. The atmosphere on the bridge was tense. The crew was on high alert due to the intelligence Lieutenant Nora Sato had gathered. Major, what's the status of our defenses? Jacob asked, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays showing the surrounding space filled with various spacecraft. We're at full readiness, Captain, Tom replied, checking his datapad. All security teams are on rotational watch and our weapon systems are primed. We can respond to any threat on a moment's notice. Jacob nodded in approval, his gaze shifting to the external sensors. We need to keep our eyes open. According to Nora, there are multiple factions interested in the artifact. Some may not hesitate to use force. As if on cue, the ship's alarm blared, and the bridge crew sprang into action. Incoming craft, fast and aggressive, shouted the sensor officer. They don't seem to be from any recognized council fleet. Battle stations, Jacob commanded, his voice calm yet forceful. The crew moved with practiced precision, securing their stations and preparing for conflict. The Guardian's screens lit up with the approaching enemy ships, sleek and angular, designed for combat. Looks like we're dealing with the rogue faction Nora warned us about, Tom observed grimly. Jacob contacted the engine room. Commander Lin, I need evasive maneuvers while we assess their firepower. Let's not make this easy for them. Understood, Captain. Hang on, came Raymond's reply as the Guardian began to move, dodging incoming fire that lit up space like a deadly light show. On the tactical display, Jacob watched as their attackers tried to outmaneuver the Guardian's defenses. Deploy countermeasures and let's give them a taste of our own, he ordered. The ship responded with a volley of plasma torpedoes, illuminating the space with bright explosions. However, the enemy was persistent, their ships equipped with advanced cloaking technology that made them difficult targets. Captain, I suggest we deploy the EMP, suggested Nora, who was coordinating the ship's communication and electronic warfare. It might give us a chance to disable their cloaking and get a clear shot. Do it, Jacob confirmed. Moments later, a pulse of electromagnetic energy surged from the Guardian, sweeping through space and revealing the previously cloaked ships. Now target their main engines and weapons systems. Disable, don't destroy. We need answers, Jacob instructed, watching as the tactical team executed his commands with precision. The battle continued, but with their technological advantage neutralized, the rogue ships began to falter. One by one, their systems failed, leaving them adrift. With the immediate threat contained, Jacob sighed deeply, feeling the tension ebb slightly. Major Erickson, prepare a boarding party. We need to find out who sent these ships and why. Tom nodded, already relaying orders to his team. We'll get you those answers, Captain. As the crew of the Guardian dealt with the aftermath of the ambush, Jacob reflected on the complexities of their mission. It wasn't just about delivering the artifact anymore. It was about surviving long enough to unravel the conspiracy that sought to plunge the Council, and perhaps the entire galaxy, into chaos. The situation escalated quickly after the ambush, leading Captain Jacob Hale and the crew of the Guardian to the strategic planet Ganthor, where the ancient artifact was originally discovered. The planet, known for its rich archaeological sites, was now the focal point of conflicting galactic interests. Upon arrival, Jacob convened a strategy meeting with his senior officers in the ship's war room. The artifact's origin point is here on Ganthor. It's not just about defending the artifact anymore, it's about controlling the source, he explained, his eyes scanning the room for input. Dr. Emily Russo added, the surface is littered with precursor technology. If we can secure these sites, we might gain enough leverage to negotiate a peaceful resolution. Major Tom Erickson was already considering the tactical aspects. The planet's surface is harsh and the rogue factions have ground forces there. We'll need a coordinated strike to secure the area and protect the team while they work. Lieutenant Nora Sato chimed in with a communication update. I've intercepted messages between rogue factions. They're mobilizing more forces to Ganthor. Time isn't on our side. Jacob nodded, his decision clear. Prepare for a ground assault. Tom, your team will take point. Emily, you'll need to guide them to the critical sites. Nora, keep us one step ahead with your intercepts. We strike at dawn. As the Guardian's dropships descended through the turbulent atmosphere of Ganthor, the planet revealed a landscape marked by ancient ruins and modern fortifications. The battle for Ganthor had begun. The ground assault was intense. As the dropships touched down, Tom's security teams fanned out, securing a perimeter around the main archaeological site. Energy blasts lit up the morning sky as rogue faction troops attempted to breach their defenses. Dr. Russo, under heavy guard, started her work, scanning the ruins with sophisticated equipment. This technology is unlike anything we've seen. It's clearly precursor, but it's as if it's been waiting for something, or someone, she reported over the comm link to Jacob, who was coordinating the operation from orbit. As the battle raged, Nora's voice crackled through the comm system. Captain, new enemy reinforcements incoming from the East Ridge. Looks like they're trying to flank us. Jacob quickly relayed the information to Tom. Adjust your positions. Don't let them surround you. Back on the ground, Tom directed his units with precision, pushing back against the encroaching enemy. Just as the situation seemed to stabilize, an enormous energy pulse emanated from the site Emily was examining. Everyone, get clear! Emily shouted, just as a wave of force expanded outward, knocking combatants from both sides off their feet. In the temporary calm that followed, the Guardian's crew and their adversaries alike were stunned, momentarily ceasing fire. Emily, scrambling to her equipment, broadcasted her findings excitedly. The artifact, it's not just a device, it's a gateway of some kind. It's activating. Jacob, witnessing the unfolding events from above, realized the gravity of the discovery. Emily, can you control it? Working on it, but I need more time, she responded, her fingers flying over her devices. Jacob made a split-second decision. Tom, pull your teams back to defensive positions. Protect Emily at all costs. This could change everything. As the Guardians' forces regrouped around the now active artifact, Jacob communicated the new priority to the Council. The revelation of the artifact's true nature as a gateway promised a new understanding of precursor technology and perhaps a new dawn for all civilizations willing to cease hostilities and explore its possibilities together. The revelation of the artifact's true nature as a gateway had altered the strategic landscape on Ganthor. Back aboard the Guardian, Captain Jacob Hale strategized with his senior officers. The enemy factions were temporarily halted, equally stunned and cautious of the activated gateway's power. "All right, team, this is a pivotal moment," Jacob declared in the ship's strategy room. "The artifact's activation hasn't just shifted the physical terrain, it's also shifted the political one. We need to leverage this before the rogue factions regroup." Dr. Emily Russo, energized by her discovery but aware of its dangers, briefed everyone on the potential. "The gateway seems to be stable now. It's connected to an unknown location, possibly another dimension or a distant part of the universe. If we can control it, we can dictate the terms of its use." Major Tom Erickson, ever the tactician, was focused on the immediate threats. "The initial shock will wear off soon. We need a solid defense around the gateway. If the factions decide to strike, it's going to be at that location." Lieutenant Nora Sato had been monitoring communications relentlessly. The latest intercepts suggest a divide among the rogue elements. Some want to destroy the gateway, fearing its implications. Others see it as a weapon to be exploited. Jacob processed the information, formulating a plan. "Nora, keep listening in. The moment you hear anything about a move against us, let me know. Emily, continue your research but make sure it's secure. Tom, I want you to coordinate with the ground forces. Set up a perimeter that no one can breach." The battle lines were drawn as Jacob communicated his strategy to the Council, emphasizing the need for a united front to secure the artifact. Surprisingly, support came from several factions, swayed by the potential benefits of a controlled exploration of the gateway. Meanwhile, on Ganthor's surface, Tom's teams established a robust defensive ring around the site. They repelled several skirmishes, each clash intensifying as different factions tested their defenses. Amidst this, Emily worked tirelessly, her team unlocking more functions of the gateway, revealing glimpses of other worlds and advanced technologies. As the final assault began, a massive force converged on the gateway. Jacob, coordinating from orbit, directed the Guardian to provide aerial support, decimating the advancing enemy ranks with precise strikes. Then, without warning, the gateway pulsed brightly, its energy spiking erratically. Emily shouted over the comm, "It's reacting to the conflict. Everyone, pull back!" Jacob watched in horror and awe as a wave of energy surged from the gateway, sweeping across the battlefield. It didn't destroy. Instead, it seemed to neutralize weapons and immobilize vehicles, its effect temporary but decisive. In the sudden ceasefire that followed, Jacob seized the moment to broadcast a message to all factions. "This technology is beyond any of us. It's not a weapon but a bridge to greater understanding and peace. We must come together to decide its future." The response was mixed, but the conflict had shifted. Discussions began, mediated by Jacob and the Council, on how to approach the gateway collectively. The Guardian stood by, its crew ready to enforce or assist as needed. As the chapter closed on the battle for Ganthor, the seeds of a new alliance were sown, guided by the promise of discovery and the sobering reminder of their shared vulnerability before the powers of the gateway. As the dust settled on Ganthor, and the luminous glow of the gateway bathed the landscape in an ethereal light, Captain Jacob Hale stood at the helm of the Guardian, overseeing the fragile peace that was beginning to take shape. The rogue factions had ceased their assaults, and representatives from various civilizations were now arriving to discuss the future of the artifact and its profound implications. Jacob convened with his senior officers in the briefing room to discuss the aftermath and the path forward. "We've reached a pivotal moment," he began, his gaze lingering on each of his team members. "The fighting has stopped, at least for now. The gateway has opened not just new horizons, but a potential path to peace." Dr. Emily Russo, still exhilarated from her role in unlocking the gateway's secrets, added, "The data we've collected could revolutionize our understanding of the universe. We're on the brink of a new era of exploration and cooperation." Lieutenant Nora Sato, who had been instrumental in monitoring and decoding communications throughout the crisis, nodded in agreement. "There's a lot of chatter across all channels. The sentiment is cautiously optimistic. Everyone is watching and waiting to see what we do next." Major Tom Erickson, always vigilant, cautioned, We need to maintain our readiness. Trust is still thin. This peace is young, and it will be tested. Jacob acknowledged this with a nod. We will remain here as part of the security detail until the Council finalizes how to manage the gateway. Our presence will help stabilize the situation. As the talks commenced, Jacob was called upon to speak before the assembly of the Galactic Council and the new delegates. Standing at the podium, he looked out over the sea of diverse beings, each representing their people and their interests. Ladies and gentlemen of the Galactic Council and esteemed guests, Jacob began, his voice firm yet hopeful. We stand together at the threshold of a new frontier. The gateway offers us unlimited possibilities, but also significant responsibilities. Let us proceed with a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect. The eyes of our civilizations, both present and yet to come, are upon us. Let's show them that peace is not only possible, but preferable. The chamber filled with a murmur of assent and applause, a sound that resonated with the promise of future cooperation. Over the following days, a treaty was drafted, establishing a multi-species coalition to explore and study the gateway, with Earth playing a central role in its governance and research. As the Guardian prepared to return to Earth, Jacob took one last look at Ganthor from the viewport. The planet, once a battleground, now symbolized a beacon for galactic unity and the potential for a peaceful coexistence. Reflecting on the journey, Jacob felt a mix of pride and relief. The mission had been fraught with danger, but it had also brought out the best in his crew and opened doors that would have otherwise remained closed. As the Guardian set its course for Earth, the stars ahead seemed brighter, the universe a little less mysterious. Jacob knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long time, it was also filled with hope. The Guardian and her crew had not just averted a crisis, they had helped forge a new path for humanity among the stars.